Hola y bienvenidos. Welcome everyone to the Cafecito Hour with the Hispanic Caucus for Speech Language Pathology and Audiology. My name is Leslie Guzman. My pronouns are she, ella, and I'm so glad you're here with us today. I'm a bilingual speech language pathologist, a listening and spoken language specialist, and I serve as the Vice President for Professional Practice for the Hispanic Caucus. Today's cafecito is all about bilingualism and representación, how centering our languages and communities reshapes our science and our day-to-day work. We are honored to be joined by Doctora Genesis Arizmendi to help us imagine a more just system of care for bilingual individuals and their families. Before we begin, we want to take a moment to share who we are. We are the Hispanic Caucus, a diverse comunidad of professionals, students, and advocates committed to the representation, connection, and better support for the multilingual and multicultural communities we serve. Our roots and stories span across Latin America and the Spanish-speaking world, and our mission is to increase resources, research, and Spanish-speaking professionals in our field so our communities can feel seen, heard, and supported. If you would like to stay connected with the Hispanic Caucus and hear more about our upcoming events, please scan the QR code on the screen, visit our website, follow us on Instagram, or email us. We would love to continue building comunidad with you. With that, let's learn a little bit more about Dr. Arizmendi's journey and the work she's doing. Okay, so I'll read her bio first, and then we can start to get into the conversation. But in the meantime, if everyone can put in the chat a nice hello and maybe tell us where you're joining us from. Dr. Genesis Arizmendi is an assistant professor at the University of Arizona with appointments in speech, language, and hearing sciences and cognitive science. As an interdisciplinary clinician scientist, she is dedicated to community-centered representative science that drives systemic change across disciplines and into practice. Building upon over a decade of clinical experience as a bilingual speech-language pathologist, she adopts implementation science frameworks to examine the intersection of cognition, language, and academic achievement in bilingual children with diverse learning profiles, including developmental language disorder and difficulties with classroom learning. Dr. Arizmendi brings a lived understanding of how language policy, educational systems, and healthcare access shape outcomes for Latino and immigrant populations. Her work is driven by understanding that bilingualism is not a barrier, but a strength. And culturally grounded, linguistically affirming practices are critical to equity in education, healthcare, and society. So, Dr. Arizmendi, welcome. How are you today?
Doing great. Thank you so much for the beautiful introduction and for the opportunity to be here with y'all today. And thank you all for joining. I know Friday, we're starting off our weekend in a beautiful way with Comunidad. So
Yes.
looking forward to keeping this conversation going and learning more about you and what my research, how it can support what you're up to and the students you serve.
Oh, it can support in so many ways. Your research is extensive. Like your resume, as I was going through it, I was in awe. You're really a person that we should admire. If you don't know about Dr. Arizmendi, today you will. And so we are in such good company. I see we have people from Monterrey, California. We have people that are tuning in from Michoacán, from Mexico. We have
Ah.
people from Anaheim. Oh, how fun. We have Indiana in the house. Great. We have some amazing, amazing people here with us today. And we have even more people joining. So I'm so happy. Great. Okay, so let's continue. And of course, it would not be a cafecito hour without a little coffee talk. So now, as I always do, I want to know cómo toman su café. And I saw your beautiful mug. Can you show us your mug?
Aquí
Oh,
estamos.
mira, I love it. What are you drinking this morning?
It's an a cold brew.
A cold brew. Yum.
Sí.
Alrighty, so I'm going to pull up a poll now, and that'll give everybody a chance to pick from the choices that you see. All right, let's launch our bilingual coffee bar for today. All right. And so with this one in particular, you can read the question prompt on there. So if we were together in person, which cafecito best matches your bilingual journey right now? Could it be a café de olla? You feel like you're rooted in tradition. You grew up with Spanish or another language at home and you're reconnecting or reclaiming it. Could it be a cafecito con leche? You're mixing it up. So maybe you're, the type of person that uses two or more languages every day and you can move fluidly between them. Or maybe an espresso shot. Do you feel intense but short? You use your additional language or languages in bursts. So maybe like in a work call, evaluations, or family visits. Or are you more of an iced coffee person? Are you still brewing? You're learning or strengthening another language and want more chances to use it. And so with the choices that I've given, what do you think, Dr. Arizmendi? Which one would you pick?
Café de olla.
Ooh. And tell us more about your bilingual journey.
So I grew up in Nogales, Arizona, which is a border town. And being in a border town, everybody around you is also having to learn English when they go to school, and everybody grew up speaking Spanish at home. But being in a community like that one, like being bilingual wasn't anything special because everybody around me was, right?
Yeah.
So I think there's a whole lot of identity learning and formation over time as I've pursued my studies and the recognition of how community really is a big driving factor in our maintenance, in how we use it, in the approaches that we take in using it, and the belonging we experience by using our languages.
Oh, absolutely. And I love that connection that you grew up in the borderland. I grew up in the borderland of El Paso, Texas, and Ciudad Juarez, Chihuahua. So
Woo!
yeah, so I can totally, I know what it's like to, cross the border and, go to school and then go back home in Mexico. Or
Mhm.
that's like the reality for a lot of our kids
Yes.
too. Um,
Yes.
so when I read that about you, I was like, oh my goodness, how cool. Like she is from the borderland too.
Yes.
All
Yes.
right, let's end the poll and let's see what people are saying. I'm going to share the results.
Let's see.
So, cafecito con leche, so mixing it up, or almost
Mm.
50% of you all. That is excellent. All right. All right, moving on. Okay, so let's continue. Let's have a little fun, but we're still going to stay grounded in practice, okay? So we're going to play a game that I'm going to call Mad Libs Bilingual Edition. So we're going to build a bilingual evaluation scenario with Dr. Arizmendi, okay?
Mm.
The way that this is going to work is I'm going to ask a series of short questions. It's going to be about 9 of them, and I will be writing your answers, okay, Dr. Arizmendi, so you don't worry about that. Um,
Okay.
and I'm going to ask you about your favorites, like favorite activities, therapy tools that you like, assessment tools. And then please, after you give us your response, tell us a little bit more behind your thinking for each one of those. And
Mhm.
then for the audience, you can also, and I would love for you to participate. So as you see one of the questions, put in your answers in the chat. And
Mhm.
then Dr. Arizmendi, you're also welcome to take, inspiration from the chat, whatever comes to mind.
Yeah.
Lista?
Yeah, lista.
Okay, let's do it. All right. The first one, what is your favorite age or, grade range to work with?
Ooh, that one's hard because I love working with everybody. But okay, so I really love the second graders. Um,
Okay.
yeah, so I'll share a little bit more here.
Uh-huh.
Most of my research training was between ages pretty much within K through 3 that I had really done a lot of data collection, worked with a lot of families and communities around those age ranges.
Uh-huh.
And then in my postdoc world, I started extending more to third and fifth grade. But as a clinician, I've worked with kids from early intervention to middle school. And so that's kind of my bread and butter within the
Yeah.
clinical space and more so within the early intervention. So, you know, all of them have their wonderful applications of how we're looking at language and bilingual development, but also the different needs and supports that we need to consider as they're progressing through the school system and where cool things that we can work on together while they're in school, like in middle school. Okay, we're working on word problems. Let's work on some of the language involved here. Okay, we're in third grade. Let's work on reading comprehension. So, you know, so much fun. Love working with everybody.
And
How
I
about
like
y'all?
that transition too between like second grade and third grade, like that learning to read versus, reading to learn. And
Hmm.
so there's that piece there. And then also, I mean, I think I still vividly remember third grade too. Like that transition too was kind of like a hard one, going from like this, everything is play-based, and then all of a sudden things change. It
Yeah.
becomes a little trickier. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, they're still in second grade, like they're still little. And then at
Yeah.
third grade, there's just like, I'm a big kid now,
All of
right?
a sudden, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see what people are saying. We have elementary, early intervention, kinder, preschool, some older elementary, but mainly early elementary.
Yeah.
I like that. They are a
Right.
lot of fun at that age.
Yes.
All right, let's see. Next question. What was your favorite hobby or activity as a child?
Ooh, okay. So I was always really interested in music. And so I was a musician. I played clarinet, I played tenor sax, and along with that, I'd bring all that musical love toward home and buying CDs at the time. And, I was reflecting on this the other day that I'm an only child.
Okay.
So yeah, I spent a lot of time with myself and, we'd get these CD, or I'd get the CD, I'd play it, but because I wanted to know what the words were, I'd sit there with my CD player and then I'd start, stop, and transcribe or write the words in my notebook so that I could memorize the words of the songs that I loved. And I was like, I've been transcribing my whole life. What the heck?
I
So,
love that.
yeah, yeah,
That's a lot of work.
right.
Would you do it in Spanish, English, or both?
Both because Selena's was in my early childhood, and I was like, I
Yes.
want to know como la flor and all the different sounds and all the different
Uh-huh.
words I need to say. And luckily, Spanish was always easier to write.
Yes, more, more transparent.
Yes,
So I
exactly.
agree with you. Or if
Yeah.
not, I used to write a lot of things just like phonetically in English
Mhm.
as I was still learning.
Oh, yeah,
And
yeah,
so that kind of like worked out a little bit.
yeah,
All right,
yeah.
let's see. People also, they have music, board games, swimming, playing piano. I love that. Oh, look, and then Paula tells us that she used to also do the same thing
Yeah.
when she was
Isn't that
learning Spanish.
amazing?
Yeah, playing with my dog. I like that.
Yeah,
I love
all the things that we love as children, it's wonderful to see how that can come back up as adults and like re-entertain our inner child to bring back the things that really formed and shaped us.
And also, I think like recognizing that about yourself and then seeing it in the littles that you're working with and how that creates a connection on its own. Like, you like music, I love music too.
Mm-hmm,
And use
mm-hmm.
that towards your, advantage in sessions.
Yeah, absolutely.
All
Great
right,
questions.
let's see. Next one. What is your favorite Spanish speaking country? I know I'm making these hard.
Ooh, this one I'm gonna be biased in it. I'm from the US Mexico borderlands and Mexico, but all Spanish speaking countries to me
Love
is
it.
familia, right? So
Yes.
I think thinking about the broader community that we're all like it takes all of us being together in this space and moving forth as a community and much love to everybody.
Oh, I am right there with you. And that's why I'm like, this is a hard one to pick, but yes, we have to pick from, if we have to pick one, it would be
One.
Mexico. So we
Hmm.
also have Cuba. I love it. And then also Mexico in the chat.
Hmm. Hmm.
You have Mexico.
Viva.
I love it. Oh, yeah, Puerto Rico. Love it. Okay. So, Dominican Republic. Yes, of course. Panama. Oh, I'm loving the chat today.
Hmm.
Okay. Next question. What is your favorite bilingual speech articulation assessment or approach?
Ooh, speech and articulation assessment or approach. So I like to do some things a little bit more non-traditionally with some of the approaches that I take. And by looking at speech and articulation, I like to use language samples. Naturally, because we don't use individual sounds as we're communicating with our loved ones, we use them in combination and in co-articulation with our communities, the way our communities communicate. Right. So I tend to go first with the language sample and conversation with the child, and then identifying some of the things that I'm recognizing that might be processes, distortions, additions, right, of the soda, deletions, additions, and then thinking through, okay, from this, what makes most sense out of my battery of standardized tests that are out there to be able to use to, compare to the broader group. But, with my practice being primarily here in the US Mexico borderlands from Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, most of the students that I've worked with are from the Mexican variety Spanish speakers. And as such, like, the gift Spanish is a nice, quick, easy to use tool too. So, uh, you know,
I'm right there
different
with you.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's also nice that it is available in both English and Spanish. So if you need to, you have that for cross-reference. Or
Mhm,
if your clinic, for example, requires you to
mhm,
have those standardized scores, using something that can be complemented in both languages.
mhm, mhm.
I'm writing these responses. Okay. And then we have the BESA also
Of
listed in
course.
that. I like it. Yes.
Mhm.
And then, yeah, with language sampling, just having a conversation with the child and starting to pick up on naturally how those sounds come about, I think is the most useful overall,
Mhm.
which will kind of go into the next one. But what is your favorite bilingual language assessment or approach?
Ooh, okay. So of course I have to shout out the Vesa here because man, the world that has changed because we have a tool that can adequately identify our Spanish speaking children.
Mm.
And I know the Vesa Me is likely going to be coming out for the middle elementary edition soon. So looking forward for that coming out. But my ultimate favorite is the FLIP, the functional language proficiency task that I designed to start looking at language in a more for our students that are multilingual Spanish English speakers, and seeing what their strengths are in their communication across languages.
And so tell us a little bit more about the flip. I know that you've had a couple chats about it, but for the people that haven't heard too much about it, and if I'm not mistaken, you're truly looking more at functional communication overall, right?
Yes.
With the flip. So
Mhm.
can you explain a little bit more?
Yeah, so knowing that our students that are growing up multilingually and have a lot of different influences, whether it's the school environment, the community environment, the family environment, the
Mhm.
social community context that's out there, what's going on in the socio-political and how that might change how a child might want to use language with others, who different speakers and different ways that we communicate with different people in our lives. And growing up here in the borderlands, having to translate for my nana and my tata. They're still Spanish monolingual speakers, though they can understand a lot of English at this
Mhm.
point. For me, as I was conceptualizing what this could look like and really drawing on the strengths of our communities, really thinking through, okay, here we have a way to look at translation, something I'm doing pretty much every week of my life for somebody that I know for
Yeah.
some purpose, and thinking through that's tapping my receptive knowledge, that's also tapping my expressive knowledge, and it's doing it across both languages. Why wouldn't that be a strong indicator of language ability as we use it in our communities to achieve a purpose rather than the dog, look at the dog walk. Now he
Uh-huh.
right? And waiting, and the child's like, what? Like you just said, he walked. What do you mean? Right?
Uh-huh.
So we have to train kids to think about some of these kinds of structures. And yes, we can make it a little game for them to fill in the blank, but in many ways, this is normal and expected for kids, and they expected for kids in our community, really. I'm not saying it's a great thing. It's part of our needs and our lived experiences. And until the systems and the structures change to support our
Mm.
communities and have people in these settings where we don't have to be translating or interpreting information for our loved ones or our community members, like that's going to be a reality for children until we do something about it, right?
Oh,
So in
absolutely.
many ways, it's drawing up, but like that spotlight onto the practices
Mhm.
that we engage in and that really help our communities move forth, but also tapping the linguistic skills and strengths that kids have in being able to express that need
Mhm.
in a way that achieves a purpose.
Yeah. And for the flip, does it have are you able to provide a score at the end? Is it more of a narrative summary? Can you tell us a little bit more about the administration?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So it's currently in the process of getting a major update that I want to share with the group. And I'll hold off on that now. But as it currently is, it's a presentation slide deck on PowerPoint, low budget. I was a doc student. People didn't believe that kids could do this, so I wasn't funded for it at the time.
Yet.
Yes, exactly. And so you administer these items and you play them for children. This was designed for kids in first, second, and third grade, but now I've piloted it from 18 to 92-year-old adults, and it works beautifully as well. So that's coming as well. And from there, a clinician can use it however they choose. It's not standardized, so it can give you insights in a child's ability to switch immediate experiences about their languages. Maybe they're like, "Oh, miss, but I don't speak Spanish." And then "Oh, you don't? Tell me more," right? "Oh, but your mom mentioned here in the right?" You can have conversations to start there, but also like their individual one sentence kind of items that they need to listen to. For example, "Hi, is there anything I can help you find?" Then dice que si necesitas ayuda buscando algo, or necesitas ayuda, right? Both of those satisfy the function and purpose of the messaging.
Yep.
So it's transcriptions at a single level, right? Single sentence. And then there's a rating rubric across vocabulary, grammar, sentence formulation, fluency, and functional equivalence. And a clinician can look at that also across each of the language pairs and identify where a child might be demonstrating more challenges in being able
Mhm.
to bridge the languages. Maybe it's in the vocabulary and finding those words. Maybe they're using a lot more unspecific vocab, la cosa, right? The thing for
Mhm.
everything.
Right.
Maybe it's more morphological endings, and you're noticing consistency across some of those items where they might be dropping certain morphological endings, or it might be an index for you to say, hey, this might be a feature of their linguistic variety. That can give you some context in like the child's ability, also in their cognition, in shifting back and forth,
Right.
their automaticity with the languages.
Mhm.
And so the rating scale, that can be supportive in helping you also identify those themes of where those challenges are emerging, but also create a context for your assessment moving forth. Hey, I can use the VESA for this, or hey, I'm going to tap more and look a little bit more at some of these subtests on the self.
Yes.
Or hey, right, like you can really use
Yes.
that as this launch pad for what you're going to identify next.
Oh, I really like that. And I like the fact that I'm assuming that just from the pure fact that you're not having this rigid way of assessing using the flip,
Mhm,
that hopefully will just allow the child to ease into the conversation and truly show their abilities.
mhm,
And
mhm,
then at that point, you're able to identify, like you said, how can I supplement this with additional tools if needed and as needed?
And in many ways, this way of if this is your first introduction with a child and like you are starting to connect with them and building that rapport, think about what that
Mhm.
could be like as you are like walking to or you pick them up in their classroom,
Right.
or, they show up to your therapy room and, hi, my name is Genesis. We're going to start doing some things today. And I'm going to start by showing you some videos of some of my friends. They need help understanding each other. So let me show you these videos. And with younger kids right now, the attention is at the screen, right? So if you
Exactly.
start off with a screen, you start off with some videos, you start off with something functional that's culturally relevant, that's culturally responsive to their experience.
Mhm.
The video itself starts off with saying like, I'm like you, I speak English, pero también hablo español. I
Yeah.
mostly speak English at school, pero hablo español en mi casa con mi familia. But
Mhm.
sometimes I use both to talk to my friends. What
Yeah.
you're going to be doing today is watching videos. And then at the end, it's like the cool thing about the cool thing that we know both languages is that we can help people understand each other. So here's an example of what you're going to do, right? And with that idea, it's like already validating the fact that them going into your therapy room, that you recognize that they have this beautiful strength in all of the ways that they are helpers, in all of the ways that they communicate, in all of the cool and incredible ways that are often left out of the conversation and othered, and like secret skills that people don't elevate that are cultural and linguistic assets.
Oh, that just really, it moved me just
Mm.
to be able to see children for who they are and not for what they can do.
Mhm,
Right?
mhm,
All right. There's
mhm.
so much more that I could ask about this, but let's keep going. So, what is your favorite go-to strategy to maintain a child's attention?
Oh, I tend to go like, oh, right, like it depends on the child. Oh, look at this, and then they turn around, and I tend to do the that. But if it kind of depends on what activity we're working on, that's
Uh-huh.
usually the way I pull them back in.
So would you
What
say
about
like
y'all?
using the like surprise effect, or how would you word that if you had to for a Mad Lib?
Yeah, linguistic behavioral modification to my communication with them. Yeah, drawing their attention back.
Yes.
Redirection.
I love that. Redirection, redirection. I say that all the time.
Yes,
All right, let's
yes,
do the next one. And please, everyone, please put your ideas in the chat as well. What is your
yes.
favorite functional language activity?
Mhm. Functional language. Oh, I mean, communication broadly, right? Having a conversation with the child and having them speak more about what it is that the activity that we're working on. Tell me more about this. How does it connect to your world? The ability to language, right, across and not say,
Mhm.
oh, tell me in English, right? And having that opportunity to make the things that we're working on fun to the child rather than just, here's a drill,
Uh-huh.
right?
Is there like a favorite tool that you use for when you're gathering a language sample? And I know there's so many and so many good ones, but what is your go-to? You're like, okay, I'm tired, but I know what I'm going to do. Let me just get this. What would that be?
I would do something like a flip
I love
translanguaging
it.
activity. Hmm. Hmm.
Perfect.
Yep.
Okay, let's see. Oh, we have role playing. Oh, I like that. I
Let's
love
see.
doing that, or puppets too.
Storytelling.
Storytelling.
Yeah.
Yep.
Great.
Let's see. What is your favorite reward, prize, or positive reinforcement that you like to use?
I like to give them the opportunity to pick the activity at the end, or like once we finish this, they all like to gravitate toward the different things that they really love, right? So some children might be super interested in that one book. Some might want to play that Zingo game. Some might want to play with the little train. So you get to pick when we finish this, let's do five more, and then let's have fun and play, right?
Mm-hmm. Let's see, we have
Game
gaming
snack
or
of
snack of choice.
choice.
Yeah. I once
Nice.
worked at a clinic where at the end of, and this was like the boss, she supplied snacks. They had a kitchen in the clinic and she would supply a bunch of snacks for the kids. And at the end of the session, like anyone could go in there and pick whatever they wanted. They'd get a little baggie. And so I always thought that was so sweet for our families that they could just pick a little something.
Yes, I love this. And that's so important right now too, with so many shifts happening. Like every time I go out into the community, now I'm bringing snacks with me,
Oh yeah.
right? Because we need our attention, we need our needs met, our safety, our health, we can't be hungry and learn, right? So that's our approach in the Babble Lab these days.
Same. For myself too in the clinic. That's the first thing that I'll ask the families. Are you thirsty? Are you hungry? Can I get you anything? Like you
Mhm,
need to feel safe and comfortable in here so that we
mhm.
can move forward and then actually tackle what it is we're there for.
Exactly, exactly.
And Carlos says we can't be hungry and learn. I agree. I mean, that's true for all of us, but especially for our littles.
Mhm.
All right, let's see. And then what is one key message you want all bilingual families to hear?
That bilingualism does not cause delays, disorders, and disabilities, and to keep your languages however you choose to communicate with your community, with your family, without somebody imposing their limitations onto you.
Beautifully said. I couldn't type that fast, but I got part of it.
Whew, too real, too real.
Okay, so now let's put it all together. I hope that everyone at home was doing this with us. And I love that. Maribeth says, together we're better. Absolutely. And
Mhm,
this is why we're here, right? Because we're building community so that we can be better together.
mhm,
So we said, imagine you're assessing a bilingual Spanish English second grader who loves music. They immigrated to the United States from Mexico at age 3 and are now in a dual language program. To assess articulation, you choose to complete a language sample and supplementing with the gifta.
mhm.
For language assessment, you choose the flip. About halfway through, they get wiggly and distracted. So you use a linguistic behavioral tool to redirect their attention. And you also build in a conversational language sample to see how they really use both languages. At the end, they feel proud of their work. So you give them the opportunity to choose a fun activity. And you make sure that the family leaves with the fact that, that bilingualism does not cause delays or disorders.
Mhm.
Yay! I love it.
Fun. Oh, this was
Good.
great.
Good. I'm so happy. And we learned so much along the way. So
Yeah.
that was beautiful. Okay. So now it's time for some questions. I loved putting this picture of you here from the ASHA leader. Congratulations, by the way. You've been featured so many times in their podcast as well. And I
Yes.
love the shirt that you're wearing. It is amazing.
I got it in Panama, by the way,
Oh,
for
did you really?
Panameños. Yes.
Oh, wow. It is beautiful.
Mhm.
Okay, so the first question. In el episodio de Asher Voices, you talked about moving away from seeing bilinguals as turning one language on and another one off, towards translanguaging as a unitary repertoire that's always active. For people that are still getting comfortable with that idea, how would you explain the difference between code switching and translanguaging in a way that they can take back to their schools or clinics or a hospital setting on Monday?
This is a great question, and I appreciate the highlight. I was also surprised when this came into my mailbox. I was flipping through it, and then I was like, wait,
Oh,
what?
that's me.
It was striking. So I've had a really fun time enjoying and talking about this and bringing light to these practices in our community. So with the difference in code switching and translanguaging, translanguaging has been around as a concept, as a principle, as a way, as a practice, as an instructional approach for many, many years in the world of bilingual education. And that's already showing us some of these limitations in our silos, in our disciplinary silos, where we're like in our SLP bubble or in our AUD bubble or in our teacher bubble or in our school psychologist bubble. But oftentimes the research doesn't get into our disciplines until many, many, many years later. And
Mhm.
I think that can be, as an implementation scientist that is really focused on bringing research into practice, into policy, and making sure that our research is used and in the spaces where it's really needed to create the changes that are necessary to serve our students, to serve our families, to serve our communities. And recognizing that it wasn't until I left the field after my PhD and was 4 years in the world of education that it came up. And, colleagues of mine when I was in my school psychology postdoc, um, folks started mentioning the principle to me, and I was like, that makes sense, but I'm trying to wrap my head around it too. It took me a little bit
Yeah.
to understand, to conceptualize it, because we're trained in a particular frame, in a particular mindset. The words that we use as well are, we develop our jargon and our own lexicon as speech language pathologists and audiologists, right? As
Right.
practitioners. And I think that can lead into some of these, like, I need to push my brain to make these new connections that have already been so rigidly formed over the last 15 years of my training in the code switching domain. And so code switching, it's contributed so much of our recognition and knowledge about bilingualism, about the need to switch between, or not the need, but also just the practice of switching across languages. But what can really, as I've been teaching this in some of my coursework, where I think in the broader communities in society, this comes up, is that code switching is also used to describe those changes when, like, oh, I'm going from home now into the school setting, or now I'm going from home to work, and I have to like change my register. I need to change my behavior. Now I'm using my SLP voice, not my home voice. And
Mhm.
those are like, they can be intentional. Oftentimes it's to adjust into the setting, but it's also like those are behaviors, and language, right, is tied to all of this. But it can get messy when we're talking about language varieties as well, where there is some of this code switching happening with the cross-linguistic influences. And I think all of this fuzziness with terminology, what falls under the umbrella of what code switch means, what the perspective of a translanguaging means, and how that is conceptualized can really be challenging when we're not having these conversations like y'all are joining us today here, and those people that are seeking out more of this information and trying to tie it into practice and recognizing how to reconceptualize these deeply ingrained principles that we have all learned, right?
Right.
So with translanguaging pushing on this, it's the idea of, okay, the code switching is more from the listener's perspective. Oh, these are the things people are doing. They're doing interest intentional, or
Mhm.
they're doing one sentence first and then the other, versus translanguaging that folks like to think about as being more from the speaker's perspective. I get to choose how I'm languaging,
Right.
rather than like this imposed view of like, let me now identify based on my linguistic processing as the listener. So we are typically the listener as SLPs, right? And identifying those features. But we need to give that agency back to the speaker in how they language and choose to language. That isn't because I'm following a rule, or I'm just doing language how I'm gonna language. And that, I think, can be challenging when we're thinking about these cross influences in cognition.
Mhm.
Cognition itself, right? People have often thought about bilinguals as being two monolinguals in one. That is, oh, okay, I'm going to be an English speaker right now. Okay, now I'm going to turn that one off, and I'm going to turn this other one off, right? But we are not two monolinguals in one.
Right.
The ways that we're learning language are deeply formed by our own lived experiences, and we can't really compare my experience to a different person's experience, even though might both be multilingual, right? The age of acquisition, the context, all of these ways of being, that the brain itself isn't just like, "Oh, now I'm going to shut off my Spanish and I'm being an English speaker." My Spanish is on at all times. What
Yes.
I'm doing is behaviorally putting on my inhibition or my executive functions to suppress and stay within my English phonological code and word choice. But
Mhm.
if we were all here, like if I went to Nogales right now and was in my community, my language is immediately going to change. And not because of anything I'm intentionally doing. It's just because I'm in a different space this summer. Like even the sound wanted to emerge right now in how it was more a little chill.
Yes.
So that was a whole lot, I know, but
No.
thoughts.
But I also think that if we begin by moving away from the standardized practices that we've been set to constantly think about and do, and think that those are the only way to get what you need to understand that child, I think that's a really good way to begin by using assessments like the flip, by using conversational language samples, by taking samples in different settings. Like that is a way that I believe, like we can all begin to explain to families, like what I'm doing here is I'm allowing your child to be able to pull from their entire linguistic repertoire,
Mhm.
right? And then that way that can lead into that conversation and to allow families to understand. Because if we as SLPs in 2026 are still trying to figure out how to understand and apply and use this terminology, how do we expect our families to understand when they've constantly been told, or they've been told by other providers, some that may have what we may believe as a greater title than you, like an MD, right?
Mhm.
That their child, is delayed because they are being raised bilingual.
Right, right. And great point, Leslie, because the what I always come into most of my conversations when I'm in different spaces, I'm like, the majority of the world is multilingual. The
Yeah,
majority of the world is not confused. English only is American exceptionalism playing out
yes,
in the US alone,
yes.
right? And
Uh-huh.
those limitations of you need to say it in English only, that wouldn't be an issue if we were in our bilingual communities and going back and forth. But this English only rule, I'm in Arizona, we're still an English only state
Exactly.
in schooling,
Uh-huh.
right? Is a huge problem when we're thinking about the realities that our communities live in.
Hmm. Very well said. Thank you so much for really breaking it down for us, and also allowing us to continue with that curiosity, because that's what I think this conversations we have to understand, that it's okay if you don't get it right away, but whatever it is that's, sparked that curiosity, that means that's, now let's turn it to ourselves and make it our responsibility to continue doing the work, because you, and along with a lot of your colleagues, have already put so much of this work out there for us to access. And so I think that that's hopefully something we can do at the end of today's presentation. Is I will share a lot of the your presentations that are already online and articles that are online. So that way the community can also take that curiosity and continue their own research.
Mhm.
And
Thank
so
you.
speaking about research, while I was doing my own research, I came across lectures from Dr. Ofelia Garcia, who's a bilingual educator. And I was amazed because I know you just brought it up, but she has been talking about translanguaging for over 15 years.
Yeah.
And then I listened to your presentation that you did for Arizona, that's on the website of the Babel Lab. And you talked about the fact that it takes about 17 years for us to get that research.
Hmm.
That was mind-boggling. I'm like, that's why we're in 2026 having this conversation when a lot of this information has been discussed.
Hmm.
And so
Hmm.
going back to that chat that I saw with Dr. Ophelia, she talks about colonial logic, how race, gender, and language categories were invented, imposed, and still shape whose voices and languages are treated as inferior.
Oh yeah.
And then we know that you grew up in the borderlands of Nogales, Arizona, and in a deeply bilingual community and bicultural, but in a state with English only school policies. Now,
Hmm.
from your lived experience as a borderlands bilingual and as a researcher, how do you see that colonial logic showing up in how school systems treat bilingual children and their families today? And then how do you think, that it helps people and communities persist in preserving their language and ways of languaging and while they're facing these policies and pressures?
Ooh, I love this question. Thank you so much for raising this because during these times that we're living in right now, these are not neutral times. And the intensity and the magnitude of the experience that our communities are facing is has intensified, month after month after month, and all of this
Mhm.
heavily weighs on communities, right? It draws their cognitive resources away from, enjoying their lives, their experiences, their opportunities to go to therapy, to work, to go to
Mhm.
participate in research, to think about what they're studying, at risk of something's going to happen to me if I step outside because they're in the area, or now they're saying I can't go and travel because ICE is in the airports, right? Like
Mhm.
all of these different things that are really coming together from the origins of this nation's history, which is this colonial settler mindset of, keep pushing and we're bringing democratic values, and that conflicts with the communities that have been here from before those times, right? I always say this as well. Spanish has been in my community longer than English has, yet we still struggle to see bilingual speech language pathologists, bilingual nurses, bilingual doctors, bilingual teachers, bilingual this, right? And that is because we start seeing those disparities early on. Growing up in Nogales, Arizona, I never had access to dual language schooling, yet there are kids in Portland, Oregon that have tons of opportunities to pursue dual language programming. This is referred to as interest conversion, where the policies that we've been needing from the very beginning of this country have not been supported until somebody with a majority or with power recognizes the utility of bilingual programming or bilingual schooling and access to that they now are pursuing those policies, but in the communities that they live in, right, taking away these opportunities from the communities that have been sorely needing them. So because we're entering into school systems already where stick to English only, parents are being told your child's going to be delayed, disordered, or experience challenges because of their multilingualism. It creates these tensions in the home, right? Because parents are conflicted. The pediatrician told me I'm harming my child by keeping my Spanish. Then, like school systems, unfortunately, in many ways, through my postdoctoral training and education and seeing these differences and the research that I'm currently conducting, is that our practitioners broadly in teaching school psychology, we have very inequitable foundations in our understandings and approaches for assessing, intervening, like cognitive development, milestones, language development, age of acquisition, impacts on language, and what that all means within a school system environment for supporting our kids. And if we're not all on the same page, how are we supposed to get the referral early on when we know early intervention is key? The majority of teachers, I did a nationwide study, do not feel confident in identifying indicators of a language disorder of a child in their classroom. That is the majority, not feeling confident even with monolingual children. And so this is speaking to that research to practice gap where, yeah, we're publishing all kinds of stuff, but we're not out there in our community saying, this is what it means. Hey, did you have that conversation with the pediatrician? Do the pediatricians know this? Hey, did you have that conversation with the teachers? Are we engaging in interprofessional collaboration? Not a whole lot. Yes, we're starting to develop frameworks, approaches, but by staying in our bubbles, that's what's created these tensions in our communities and our societies, because we're not equipped with the knowledge that we have so much out there that has been produced, but it hasn't made it there quite yet. So it's playing out in every system, in every way, in every approach, and has been intensified. And it takes all of us coming together and recognizing where we have the opportunity to push our communities, to push our leaders, to speak truth to the realities that our communities are experiencing, and really trying to bridge that research to practice to policy. I was in DC through all this week. I met with Adelita Grijalva. I'm having conversations with her staffers in the approaches. Adelita Grijalva is my congresswoman, and thinking through, okay, what are the things that we want to do to enrich our students' opportunities within the state where we're 48th, 49th, or 50th in education in a larger Latino community where we're still English only, right? And so it's tough. It requires a lot of work. It requires a lot of preparation. But if we're not doing that, the change isn't going to happen. We don't have that time to wait 17 years, right? Or more.
Exactly. And so recognizing that silencing has always been a tool, silencing our voices and suppressing. And part of that goes along with the research. I feel like there is so much research, there is so much knowledge, and there are a lot of professionals out there trying to put all of this out, but for some reason it's not making it to us. And so I agree with you. This is why community is also so important, so that if one person knows about it, now we have that responsibility to do better. Because I tell this to my 5-year-old all the time: when you know better, you do better.
Yes.
You cannot just sit along with it and accept it as a reality. What can we do to incite that change, to ignite that change in others as well?
Absolutely. That's the way, right? Especially in these times, like we're starting to see that it requires all of these levels of communication, of community, and really advocating and speaking truth, even when it feels scary. And I think that lesson that I've learned over the last year and a half is if we're not doing it, others people aren't going to do it for us. And, these are the facts.
And I think for that reason too, like it's another reason why I'm so happy that you're here today, because you've gone against the norm, against the norm of being silenced, against the norm of everything, and speaking about subjects that are so critical yet so difficult, because it's harder when people don't want to understand it, like when there's that, nope, I'm not going to do it. And so I feel like you are that person right now, one of the people currently leading that research. And I know you inspire me, and I hope that you're inspiring others to do the same. And like now let's start to think critically and think about within our own little communities. Yes, we have this big community here, but our little communities, and see how we can continue that momentum.
hmm Thank you.
Okay, so let me make you a co-host. Did you want to share your slides now? Because now we want to learn more about your projects.
Oh, let me see if I have it open here. So I'm super excited. I know in the chat you had mentioned, or in the email thread of the Puente program, that I'm super excited about because in many ways this research has. Oh man, all my research has really changed my world and my approaches and the way I'm thinking about things broadly because I'm doing things that I wasn't really trained in many ways to do within like the world of speech language hearing sciences and like digging into language and morphological endings and all these different things. And I'm like, nah, man, like let's wonderful. We need all of that to continue informing practice, but I think with Puente, it has just it's changed my life, and I think I'm really excited to share more about the initiative. And so I'll start with the website. If y'all haven't had the opportunity to visit, here are some of the things that we're currently working on and are in the process. Some things need updates. I had a big staff overturn here at the end of this summer with a lot of my students graduating that had been in the lab since I started it. So with Puente, it's called the Pathway for Underrepresented Education, Networking, Training, and Empowerment. And, I just mentioned to y'all that the world of SLHS, I left for 4 years when I pursued my postdocs. And I remember being so deeply frightened to leave the world of SLHS, thinking I wouldn't be able to make it back in if I chose to leave the profession. Should I just be working under somebody who has been a leader in bilingual ed forever? Should I, like there's so much that comes to the mind of what it all means. And I'm so grateful that I left because it taught me so many new perspectives and approaches, but also the world of education is much more diverse. And I think I felt much more at home there. I didn't have to justify a lot of the things that I talk about because the people typically in those spaces get it within educational equity scholars. And I think being in rooms like that really shaped my approach in coming back into the world of speech language hearing sciences. So I ended up interviewing in colleges of education and in colleges of speech or that where speech language hearing sciences are. And I ended up taking the position here in my at my alma mater. I pursued my bachelor's, master's, and PhD here at the University of Arizona. And this was ultimately the dream. This is what I wrote as my dream. Like, this is why I want to go do what I do and be in my community and serve my community and, be who I didn't have within my growing up in the world of SLHS. And so I think, so much from that. But I had a very rude awakening when I came back to, the world of SLHS now as a professor 4 years later. And, students kept coming to me and were like, hey, like, why, why aren't there very many of us? And I was like, oh, yeah. I went to a NISLA event one time and, I stepped in 2 minutes late. Taylor Swift is blasting. I step in and I sit down and I'm like, oh, because I was counseling a student not to drop from the program. And, I sat down and was immediately transported to 2009 when I first declared the major and started going into the classes and looking around and was like, where is everyone? Because, the field is over 90% white and over 92% monolingual, right? And those numbers can be much bigger than that in different programs in different institutions. Mine has historically looked like that. And that we're an hour north of the border, which doesn't make any sense, right? So why am I feeling the same way as I did 15 years ago? And now my students are experiencing the same thing. Nothing's changed. And for me, this idea of, if we don't do something about who is coming into our programs, into our profession, recognizing that this is a profession where we deeply need more people, more community who is multilingual, multicultural from all different areas of life, right? If we don't do anything about that, nothing's going to change, right? We've all had the experience of looking through the comment section when Asha comes up and, we're talking about critical things that are happening in our worlds, critical things and needs that our communities need. So I created this curriculum with my students who were undergraduate and graduate students, all from Latino communities, the primarily Latino communities, but very much underrepresented communities here in Arizona and in the profession. And so we created these modules. Let me open these up for y'all. That are focused on, and I know I've been going for a minute, so I'll speed it up here. Intro to Communication Sciences. So how do we speak? How do we learn words? How do we hear? Basic principles like of the neurobiology, neuroanatomy, all the fun things that we learn about. Bilingual development, so bilingual myths and misconceptions, language varieties, discrimination, language brokering, and practices like translanguaging. Careers in speech language path or communication sciences and disorders. So SLPA, SLPs, audiologists, other professions that one can pursue with their bachelor's, and then the hidden curriculum in higher education. So what that's like to transition as a first generation student to pursue, like, hey, why am I experiencing culture shock at the university? I didn't go anywhere. I'm still in my hometown. My students tell me, I feel like I'm a stranger in my own hometown even though they didn't go anywhere. They're just on a university campus where we're not well represented, right? And so, as I mentioned, disparities begin early on in the school system and prevent us from pursuing higher education in the first place. So this curriculum was designed for high school students in our community that are in the borderlands. So we partnered with a school system, the Sunnyside Unified Schools District, which is over 90% Latino. We also come into the classroom in their high schools. I go 2 times a month and I'm there teaching these lessons and connecting with the students and leading the conversations. So 2 times a month in the classroom with this was our first cohort. And, we invited them to the campus, showed them where the student resource centers are, where they can find community, culture, resources, belongingness on campus, because we know that's hard to find. It can be hard to find. And then At the end, they have a graduation, so we invite their families to come and listen to all of the amazing things they learned about. So this is their families coming in, sharing about the curriculum, the importance, why the maintenance of language is important. What is a speech language pathologist? Don't let other people tell you that's to stick in English only. So many different things. And now we have students from that have participated in this program that are now walking in the hallways in the speech language hearing sciences department. And it has been the most like beautiful part of the process. Let me find the this new year's cohort because now we've expanded to two classrooms. One is a ELD classroom, so they're long-term English learners in high school, and teaching them these things has opened up a new world and application for the Puente program because they're recognizing that language variety is beautiful, that language takes many years to develop, and that the struggles that they might be experiencing is nothing related to their abilities, skill sets, things they've heard about their language or their variety, but has everything to do with language is hard and cross-linguistic influences take a while to sort through and develop and have opportunities to experience. So, ooh, I know I go and go and go, so I'm going to stop right there, but it has been beautiful.
Wow, what a rewarding experience. Like I can only begin to imagine like that feeling of seeing that cohort like now roaming the halls.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that speaks to you invest in your community, you invest in the future of what the profession can be, you invest your time in and around, like I've been advised, no, you should probably be writing, you should probably be doing other things to advance your scholarship. But what other things could advance my scholarship more than investing in my community so that they know that when they hear English only, or if they have a loved one that has a delay, if they become a parent one day or another professional, if they become a nurse or, whatever they become, they have these skill sets and know that like they can't be told now, hey, your bilingualism is going to lead to delays. They're not perpetuating the things that society tells them about themselves. They have the knowledge and skills to defend upon that.
So would you say in a way this is a form of resistance?
Oh, in every way, shape, and form. That's here's our latest cohort where we brought in it's a little hard to see them here.
Oh,
Um, this was the second year, so we had like 70 students in the cohort this year.
wow.
And, I cry about this because I've never seen ever in my 15 years being on this campus this many students of color in this space, right? So it's kind of like, this is what it can be if they just knew that the opportunity and the careers were there for them. Because if I don't know about y'all, but I'd never heard of speech language pathology until my junior year in college, right? So,
Same.
you know,
I mean,
yeah.
it's such a, I think again, we tend to be in these silos when it comes to like being, a multilingual, multicultural person in the United States of America. Not
Yes.
recognizing that we are out there and we're not going anywhere. So
No.
why not get together, learn from each other? And I love what you brought up the whole part that, language is hard. Language is dynamic. It is forever changing,
Always.
always.
Yeah.
How beautiful. So please, I encourage everyone, go take a look at the website. Please go ahead and do so. Let other people know about it. Again, I'm going to make um, a little post so that we can share that with a lot of people, especially for students. Can students from other states potentially join?
Yeah, so so I'm like thinking through how can we expand the reach of Puente? Should we do like a virtual Puente? Should we do like, would y'all be interested in doing something like that or witnessing it or like, seeing what these modules could look like? We're in the process of writing up our manuscript on it. It's going to be a part of an implementation science special issue. So it's taken a little bit more time than we would have liked to get it out into the world, but where our goal is to get these materials, put them on our website so other people who want to lead their own puentes in their own communities while having to, of course, revise and adapt to better fit who the community, who your community is, right? And the perspectives of your community. This is deeply embedded into like more Latino, borderlands, Mexican Spanish speakers, or just Spanish speakers. But, you know, if I were to move this and pick it up to Atlanta, Georgia, I might make some modifications and touch on other things, right? That are more relevant and culturally applicable to the communities there, right? And so more coming on this. Yeah, what do y'all think? Would you like, would that be of interest with like puentes? Before y'all leave, I know I also shared that there's like for all the attendees, I wanted to share about the flip and the latest developments. I haven't shared this anywhere else yet, so kind of like a sneak peek, but we are in the process of launching the flip in a new approach with an app where you would pretty much have the video is no longer on big PowerPoint. It's an app that you would have wonderful videos now that are really well presented, but also it offers this feature where the SLP doesn't have to do the transcription, scoring, coding, any of that. I've actually started a partnership with my husband, and he's leading a bilingual speech language pathology tech company to design the flip and improve it for all SLPs to take back your time. If you don't have Spanish language skills, the AI will transcribe it for you, rate it for you, generate the report for you. You don't have to go through, is it 012? Is it 012? We're in the process of improving the ratings for it at this point, but we're gonna need a trial of people who give it a shot so that we can improve the models so that the variety of ways children communicate are represented, or community communicates, right, are represented so we can get accurate representation on the ratings. So it would take 15 minutes, right, still, but you don't have to do rating, transcribing, all the stuff.
Oh, I am so excited. And I mean, I know for a fact you've gotten so much love as you've been speaking about this. So I have no doubt that you will count on all of us. You can count on me. You can count on the Hispanic Caucus to be able to support with that initiative and the work that you're doing. Absolutely.
Super exciting, and we're excited to launch it. You know, we still have I appreciate you all for being here, and I know we've taken a little time over, and you know, I appreciate y'all taking the time on a busy Friday day. But we've already won some pitch competitions. My husband has been gaining monies to be able to support. He's gotten a startup Tucson University of Arizona Center for Innovation support seed funding to be able to improve the model, to launch it so that we can support our school systems, our SLPs, whether they are bilingual or monolingual, so
Yes.
that they can use the tool in a way that works for them.
Oh my goodness, yes. Without a doubt. You have us and you have us as a Hispanic caucus too to be able to spread the word. So yeah, we'll send out a newsletter, but at the same time, any updates that come in, you let us know. We are here for you. You are here for our community. Rest assured, we're going to support your initiatives. And also, what a wonderful tool. Like, I'm just excited that we get to use this now. Like, how cool.
Yeah, it's been amazing to watch unfold. He's been working on it nonstop since January because he was like, he was in aerospace for the longest time, and he was like, "Oh, that's all you need to do to make the flip useful for more people? Let me work on it then." And I was like, "Let's do it."
Yes.
So he's also from El Paso,
Yay.
Texas represent.
Yay. Okay, well, thank you. Thank you so much. And again, yes, thank you to everyone that has stuck around and everyone that joined. Just a quick announcements before I close off. We're going to have for students an Unicafe. It's very similar style to our cafecitos, but designed for students. It's an opportunity for, Hispanic SLP students nationwide to connect, collaborate, and support one another in a shared space. So please join us. That's coming up next week. I believe it's a Tuesday, June 30th, 7 p.m. Eastern time. And then if you scan today this QR code and tell us what you thought about today's cafecito and you help us improve, of course, you'll be getting all our emails, but then we're also sending out to anyone that completes the entire survey a Hispanic Caucus sticker pack. So please go ahead and scan the QR code now and fill out that survey. And then I just have to say, muchísimas gracias. Thank you so much for joining us today. What an honor to have you. Seriously, you brought your corazón, and you brought honestly like a lot of clarity to, I believe, everyone that was here to listen to what you had to say. The recording will be up, so other people will be able to hear this and learn about all the initiatives and all the stuff that you're doing. And again, just to remind the community, we carry so much power within ourselves. And again, continuing to be bilingual, honoring our bilingual students is an act of resistance. And it is our responsibility to make sure that our communities continue to feel seen, heard, like they're heard and supported. And so please, I hope that you can take the information that you learned today and continue with one conversation at a time. That's all that it takes, and one act of advocacy at a time. And Dr. Armendariz, any last closing thoughts, statements?
Oh, I'm just so grateful to have had the opportunity to connect with y'all and to share this Friday, start the weekend off right, but also thankful to all of you for all of the tireless things that y'all are doing on the day-to-day to push through in the most challenging of times that we're experiencing as a community. But know that you are not alone in your experiences. You know, we are all pushing through together, and I appreciate the Hispanic Caucus for putting all of these initiatives together to bring our community together and to support our Hispanic Latino community all over, because, you know, we can't do it alone. And I appreciate all you do.
Yeah, thank you so much. Together we are better. And of course, at the end of the day, it's not just about our cafecito, not just about our caffeine. It's about connection, encouragement, and comunidad. So thank you all for joining. And with that, we will close off.
Gracias. Feliz viernes.